What's going on, family? What is going on? Welcome to the Uncle's Lounge, a place that we come together to speak truth, to restore hope, and to ask and answer the hard questions of all the things that are going on in our community, the Black community. So that through all of this, one day we may be able to stand up and be what the Most High said that we would be, an exceedingly great army. Welcome. To all of you that are on YouTube, thank you for joining in. Please, sir, please, ma'am, if you can, hit that like button and subscribe. This is all new to me. We're getting all worked out. So you guys be patient. I'm really building it up. We're working on it. To all of my TikTok family and my Instagram family, man, I love all of y'all. Listen, I want to talk to you for a brief minute. And I want to talk to you about something. I was privy to be able to be a part of, invited to a beautiful session, a debate, a discussion about the Black church. I was not on the debate panel itself, but I was invited in to, sit back and to hear what was said and to listen to the rhetoric of what these beautiful, intelligent people were speaking about the Black church. And it was a wonderful panel. It brought out a lot of things. There was hurt there was positivity, there was all sorts of things. And I sat back and I listened. At my age, now I am able to listen to the rhetoric and through the rhetoric find wisdom through the rhetoric. And that's what I did. I found wisdom in the rhetoric. And so I wanted to come in to talk to you guys about it. Hopefully, I'm gonna ask you soon to make some comments on it. When you hear it, make some comments on it. Please keep it positive. But they were talking about the negatives and the positives of the Black church and different aspects of the Black church, what it should be, what it used to be, what it's not anymore, what's going on, all kind of things. And I sat down and I listened. And so I wanted to do a response to it in the way that I do it. I began to sit down and jot some things down. And some folks told me, they said, do what you do. You know how you like to write and you like to, speak in the whole 9 yards. So that's what I'm doing. Uh, for most of you who don't know, I was born and raised in the church, simply point blank. My parents started pastoring, both of them started pastoring in the early 60s. Okay. And my mom was a Pentecostal pastor, and my father was a Baptist pastor. And I was what they call Baptist. And so I grew up in that environment. And then most of you know that I have been involved in ministry and community myself for over 30 years. I love our people. I love our community. And I love everything that is us. So I have been involved in ministry and in our community for a number of years myself. And so when I was listening to this debate, I could resonate with all of the things that these young people and some of the older people were saying. And so I kind of wanted to kind of bring it together, and quite possibly, just bring some light to what I heard and understand. And so I wrote some things out. So I did my thing and I wrote it out. And I want you guys to hear. And this is simply what I wrote. What happens when the sanctuary becomes silent? When the pulpit forgets the poor, and when the choir is louder in song than they are for the call to justice. Some of you guys just know what I'm talking about. You understand that you know what I'm talking about. The songs are still good in the church. The dances are still strong and going on. And the shouting is still there. But what about the resistance? The fight? The cry for justice? Is it gone? Is it frozen psychologically? Or is it just quiet? One of the things that psychologists say is that we can get to a point of what they call learned helplessness, meaning that when a person goes through so much trauma, so much pain, that they start to believe that nothing can change anymore, even when it really can. That's where a majority of people are in some Black churches right now. After years of marching, fighting, crying out, some people have been so beat down by the system They stop believing resistance even matters. They no longer resist because now the trauma has been internalized. So now what happens? We praise instead of protest. We shout, but we don't show up. When atrocities plague our communities, we've learned how to live without hope in the name of Jesus. And then from those spaces and places, we now apply what we call the spiritual bypass. Spiritual bypass is when we have spiritual language or languaging that says things like, God will fix it. Let's just pray. Accept what God allows. Just give it to Jesus. And we say all of these things in the spiritual bypass just to avoid facing reality. Family, listen to Ankh. Prayer is powerful. I believe that. Worship is necessary. I certainly believe in worshiping the Most High Yah. But if our spirituality is helping us to avoid the work, then we're not serving God. We're just numbing ourselves. So for us, it becomes an anesthesia, but never an awakening. And what happens from that point, we have a disconnect, a cognitive dissonance. The Black church also suffers sometimes from just that. A mental tension that we just disconnect. On one hand, we know the gospel of Jesus Christ is about the poor, the oppressed, and the broken. But here is our dichotomy. On the other hand, we just want comfort, prosperity, and respectability. So how do we resolve that conflict? They water the gospel down to personal salvation. Just get saved. Just be holy. But forget about the incarcerated, the hungry, and the marginalized. Because now the cognitive disconnect is working wonderfully. And this mental tension is what is killing the Black church, in my opinion, today. Why is that? Because you can't serve two masters. Then we fall upon the next group that I call the colonized consciousness. Now we're going to go just a little deeper in the thought process of what I gathered out of what was said. Colonized consciousness, I had to sigh there because it's so prevalent right now, and I had to take that sigh because I felt that. Colonized consciousness now is that we now, the oppressed, we start thinking like the oppressor. I'm going to say that again. Colonized consciousness is when the oppressed starts thinking like the oppressor. Some Black churches have now internalized white evangelical values. We're seeing that today, called spiritual colonization. That's right, that's where we're at. Spiritual colonization right now. What is that? It's capitalism, individualism, respectability, and most of all, silence on injustices. And then we turn around and call it Christianity. I'm going to say that again. capitalism, individualism, respectability, silent on injustices. And we call it Christianity. But the Jesus that I know of the Bible, he was a poor man. He was killed by the state. He flipped tables and he defied an empire. The black church to too many degrees now have traded that Jesus for comfort and compliance. That's not holiness, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you call mental colonization. And so from that mental colonization, the next thing we deal with is religious trauma, meaning that we seek safety, meaning that people avoid taking pains or risks by staying in environments or routines that feel safe because they don't want to deal with the brokenness of what is. Church for many folks now is the last safe environment, last safe space that they have in the community. So rather than disrupting that with truth, rather than disrupting that with protests or prophetic confrontations, leaders often keep the peace by choosing comfort over their callings. It's a trauma-informed response, ladies and gentlemen. Of course it is. If I don't shake up things, at least I won't be hurt. That's where we're at. So we ask, what do we do? Well, first of all, we've got to wake up the frozen church. The shouting is fine. The songs are beautiful. But if our praise doesn't lead to power, if our worship doesn't lead to action, then we've missed the whole point. Ask your church this the next time you go. Are you shouting to survive, or are you shouting to be liberated? Because survival without liberation, ladies and gentlemen, that's not salvation. It's just endurance. If we're not saved to endure slavery in the spiritual colonized mentality, we've been saved to end it. So here's the challenge. Here's the challenge, family. Here's the challenge, black church, from what I gather. Let's bring the black church back to life, not just emotionally, but prophetically. Speaking to the powers that want to continue to oppress our people. Let's remember that worship is not a substitute for work, and praise is never a substitute for protests. This is something now that we have to come to the reality of. And ladies and gentlemen, if we do these things, I will guarantee you that the black church that has now slowly slipped into an abyss will come back and rise through the fog, rise through the pile of trauma and hurt, rise again to be that place that is the forefront of our community, that stands and speaks to power no matter what the consequence. So these are my thoughts on where I was and the rhetoric I heard and the wisdom that I wanted to pull out of it. So I hope it blessed you. I hope you share it with somebody. And I hope it was a blessing to you and to anybody that heard it, anybody that listens to it, pastor, preacher, prophet, grandma, grandpa, whoever, auntie, uncle, to the whole community. Listen, man, I love y'all. Be blessed. I'll talk to you on the next time at the Uncle's Lounge.